The Florida Panthers get a statement win against the big bad Boston Bruins, who came into this game 17-0. We're going to discuss the Florida Panthers' 5-2 win and discuss how they got there, all on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Thursday, November 24th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and the newest show on the Locked On NHL Network, Locked On NHL Prospects. So, Cats fans, I have a question for all of you guys. How are you feeling? Because I'm feeling good. Real good. It's hockey's weird. Sports are weird. Where we spoke just a few days ago, even with Jacob, about how coming into Sunday's game on paper that the Florida Panthers, everything said that they should have defeated the Columbus Blue Jackets on Sunday. And of course, the confidence level going into this game, I was discussing about how nervous I was going into Wednesday's game. If you actually want to pause this podcast real quick and go back to Wednesday's episode with Jacob Winans, and you'll see a little bit of my concern previewing Wednesday night's game against the Boston Bruins, and just the opposite happened. And the best part about this game for the Florida Panthers is that they never trailed in this one. I mean, it's crazy. Let's talk about the biggest story really of this game to begin, and that's Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight looked great. Really early on, going way out of his net to make a save on Craig Smith and then another save on Brad Marchand, and really keeping the Florida Panthers really in this game throughout the first period and really setting the tone. And for the Boston Bruins, 5-on-5, controlled the possession 5-on-5. Of course, if you look at natural stat trick, the Corsi for the Boston Bruins 5-on-5, they doubled the amount of shot attempts for them over the Panthers, and shots on goal 15-8, where Spencer Knight saved all 15 of the shots on 5-on-5. And really, the fact that the Boston Bruins come in at 17-2-0 in this one, and only 2 of their goals come on not only the man advantage, the 2-man advantage for the Florida Panthers. I mean, a little bit of sloppiness for the Panthers really on both of those. When going to the penalty box, Ryan Lomberg, an inexcusable slash right out the faceoff. Anton Lindell, an offensive zone penalty, and then off the literally 6 seconds later, right off the faceoff, Gus Forsling is right behind the boards, and then Jake DeBrusk strips the puck away from him, and then Charlie McAvoy, who actually had a little bit of a scare in this one in the first period, right before even that goal. Him and Tkachuk were he was trying to defend Matthew Tkachuk on the 2-on-1, and then Charlie McAvoy goes to the boards, goes to the locker room for a little bit, and then comes back, gets that goal for the Boston Bruins. But even prior to that, I mean, the Florida Panthers keeping it in the zone, and Matthew Tkachuk, you thought that maybe he could have tried for like a wraparound attempt, but just getting it to Sam Reinhart and forcing Jeremy Swayman right out of his net, and Sam Reinhart continuing to score on the power play, and then Also, Sam Reinhart, every single time the puck was near the end boards, most times when Sam Reinhart's line was on the ice, he was basically mostly the first one towards the end boards trying to get that puck, and made that difference really on the Lundell goal where he just got it to Nick Cousins, and then everyone drawing towards Nick Cousins, then him getting it to Anton Lundell, which that's Anton Lundell's first point since the Carolina game and his first goal since the home game against the New York Islanders. So it's been a little while for Anton Lundell getting it going, and of course, valuable on the penalty kill as well for Anton Lundell, but it takes a little bit for him to get the points going. So him and Barkov getting points in this one, it's just very encouraging to see for him, and you know, Eric Stahl. I mean, how many times are we going to see Eric Stahl miss the net for the Panthers? I feel like too many times that we saw a 3-on-1 where with Forsling as the trailer, and then Eric Stahl shooting the puck and missing badly instead of passing it to Aaron Ekblad. And then it happened again where Josh Mahura made a great play in the Panthers zone, chipping the puck up the boards to the neutral zone, and then him and Patrick Hornquist were on the 2-on-1, and then Eric Stahl misses the net. But honestly, that's the least of the Panthers' worries as far as this game. And a lot of fans have been going after Kobe Guy of Florida Hockey Now based on his latest article on Eric Stahl. But the numbers don't lie. Via Hockey Reference, he is the Panthers forward that gives the least amount of goals against per 60 minutes on the penalty kill. Yeah, 5-on-5, his numbers aren't the best, but there's some value there for Eric Stahl. I'm not saying that he is going to be the ultimate difference maker for the Panthers, but there is some value for Eric Stahl on the PK. Mark Stahl, I mean, brought the physicality for this Panthers team. I mean, I know we've also complained about Mark Stahl, all the turnover. I mean, I have more to complain about Mark Stahl than I do Eric Stahl, honestly. And Mark Stahl wasn't the one on the PTO. So, but we saw also the physicality of him as well for the Panthers. I mean, he had a big hit on David Krejci as he was entering the zone, and really I think that was on the penalty kill, I believe, and really eliminated really much of any zone time for the Boston Bruins. Aaron Ekblad, he gets his 100th goal of his career, 3-point night for Aaron Ekblad, but it's a little bit of a deceiving 3 points for Aaron Ekblad, as especially on one of the last power plays for the Florida Panthers, the Boston Bruins got a lot of zone time shorthanded because Aaron Ekblad had a turnover right in the neutral zone, and not the best game for Aaron Ekblad despite getting 3 points. But I'm not going to crap on Aaron Ekblad too much in this one. I mean, again, what can you say about Matthew Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov? Even though the 5-on-5 numbers for the Boston Bruins, they got so many high danger scoring chances in the beginning of the game. They had 7 5-on-5 in the first period. The rest of the way, they only had 6 via natural stat trick. Saw that right after the game. But the fact that Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk continuously trying to get the pucks to the net and being in position to deflect the pucks in made Jeremy Swayman's life a little bit difficult in this one. And that was Jeremy Swayman's first game going against the Florida Panthers. Never faced off against them before. But in segment number 2, we are going to have the conversation of whether it should be Spencer Knight's crease to continue right after this, because he only gave up goals on the penalty kill on Wednesday night and stopped 32 of 32 on 5-on-5 on Wednesday night. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get all the latest odds, trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline. And if you love sports podcasts and you can find these at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to getting your betting fix. Head to the website today with your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Second segment here on this Thursday, November 24th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And I want to wish all of you out there a very happy Thanksgiving, by the way. And I hope that you are waking up with a great mood for all of you. And because I know going throughout the day, I'm going to be in a great mood. Of course, watching some football as well, hoping that both the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots lose, of course, because those are the AFC East rivals of the South Florida team. But as far as the hockey team, it's all good vibes here right now for South Florida hockey. But I have a question for all of you. When was the last time that you saw 3 5-on-3 opportunities for both your team and the opposition, regardless of whether it's the Panthers or the Boston Bruins or even any NHL game that you've watched? When was the last time that you saw 3 times that there have been 5-on-3s? And one of the 5-on-3s for the Panthers looked horrid, as the puck was just around the perimeter, all around the point, and the Florida Panthers failed to get it to Sam Reinhart and Matthew Tkachuk down low, and the puck was spent mostly around the point and not getting it to the net. So, but honestly, when you put yourself in a position to eliminate them being 5-on-5, you're taking the puck away and spending more time in your offensive zone, that's a big recipe for success. I mean, we even spoke about it yesterday, where the Boston Bruins were leading in almost every major statistical category as far as goals for, goals against, power play percentage, PK percentage, face-offs, and in the top 10 of shots against per game. I mean, sure, the Florida Panthers didn't face the number 1 goalie for the Boston Bruins. Jeremy Swayman is a promising prospect for the Boston Bruins, but still, it's still a very good goalie situation for Boston, and possibly a Jennings trophy for that crew of Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark as well. And I mean, let's talk about Spencer. I think it might be time for him to be the number 1. Paul Maurice and Bill Zito didn't sign Sergei Bobrovsky. Didn't even draft Spencer Knight. But Bill Zito did, in fact, give Spencer Knight the extension. I mean, we're a few years away from Sergei Bobrovsky's contract expiring. I mean, not really, but quite a bit away, actually. But after this contract for Sergei Bobrovsky, whether he gets traded or not, I mean, after this, he's no longer gonna be a Panther, and he's brought a lot of good things to the table. I mean, but just one good year out of 4 so far for the Panthers is just not going to cut it for Bob. And I like Sergei Bobrovsky, a 2-time Vezina Trophy winner, a great leader. And even Spencer Knight after the game spoke about how Sergei has been a mentor, and he can call him a true friend. I don't know if that's just lip service for Spencer Knight, but the numbers don't lie, and the eye test doesn't lie neither, that the Panthers are just flat out playing better when Spencer Knight is in the crease for the Panthers. And I believe you just got to continue riding the hot hand. I mean, the Florida Panthers do have a back-to-back coming up on Monday and Tuesday against Edmonton and Calgary. But what do the Florida Panthers do as far as starts for Bob and Knight? And I think that you have really no choice but to ride the hot hand for the Florida Panthers, and putting Spencer Knight in against the St. Louis Blues, who just had their I believe they had their winning streak snapped tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, they got manhandled actually 6-2 by Buffalo, but I think that you gotta at least consider putting him in. I mean, because we are. It's crazy to think we are at that benchmark. We are at that 20 game mark that Paul Maurice all spoke about. And who has been the better goalie and who has played better? It's been Spencer. And it's when a $10 million goalie is your backup, you emotionally you kind of treat it as dead cap for the Panthers, even though they're still on their roster. They're gonna still get some starts here and there, but it's basically dead cap for this Panthers team. And 32 of 32 speaks a lot of volumes for this team when the Boston Bruins were just dominating possession after possession. And just looking at the heat chart for the Boston Bruins, I mean, so many times they were right on the doorstep for right in front of Spencer Knight, and really the first period really set the tone for his team. And with the Panthers, they took their opportunities to protect Spencer Knight, as well as getting the timely goals that they needed. I mean, 11 of 30 on the power play since November 6th is a very, very encouraging sign. I mean, when the power play wasn't going early on, and we've talked about over and over again, when it's not this problem and then this problem gets solved, then it's this problem again, where and yeah, but even then, the Panthers were doing a great job of closing gaps as well, and not allowing the Boston Bruins as well to continuously work the puck around, so that Spencer Knight has time to get set as well, and as well for him getting some of that rebound control as well. And that, for Spencer, is what he's doing differently, at least from what I'm seeing, versus what Sergei Bobrovsky is doing. And juicy rebounds have been a thing of Sergei Bobrovsky since we've seen him in a Florida Panthers sweater. And I'll tell you the truth. I'm not gonna deny it, that I want, at least for this season and even for next season, for Sergei Bobrovsky to be at least the main guy. And it's not because I want him to not necessarily for him to take over the crease long term all the way to the end of his contract. It's because I want there to be trade value too for when Spencer Knight is ready. Because if Sergei Bobrovsky doesn't perform up to par, then you're stuck with them. And even with the cap going up, the Florida Panthers are just put themselves in a worse situation, and especially, and they can't put him on waivers because the no move clause does not allow him to go on waivers. I had a comment on yesterday's show that I wanted to talk about here, and in case you guys are wondering about that, he can't be placed on waivers due to that. But it's a detriment more to this team if he's performing poorly versus Spencer Knight. And Spencer Knight has just been incredible, and the captain Alexander Barkov continuing to win his faceoffs, and he was incredible tonight. I mean, Patrice Bergeron on the other side continuing to just be that complete 200-foot player. I mean, Alexander Barkov 57% on the dot tonight for the Panthers in 20 minutes of ice time for the Panthers. You know, that's gonna give you a lot of possession for the Panthers, even though faceoffs aren't the end all be all for in hockey. But you still give your team chances to clear the puck as well, especially when you're down a man on the PK. And and also the Panthers, they with with Matthew Tkachuk as well. 4 multi-point games in the last 5. And it's just continuing. I just want to just continue giving this guy his roses, and just knowing that this guy is 24 years old and the Panthers are going to have 8 years more of this on their team, and he's producing like this. It's just a different dimension that the Florida Panthers continue to have on their team. The wins might not have come as often, but as far as grittiness, and that might be a term that might be a little overused, but you see, if you watch every single game, and even if you don't watch every single game and you just see Matthew Tkachuk after the whistle, you're seeing it. And that just creates a different dimension for this team. And those two, and even on separate lines too. Colin White's on that top line for the Panthers, something we haven't really discussed too much lately. Eetu Luostarinen was in that second line with Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk as well. And just, I think these are the lines that we've kind of been waiting for the Panthers as well. And so far so good. As far as this game, at least. We had a little bit of juggling of lines on Sunday in Columbus, but let's see where these lines for the Panthers can take them. 5-on-5 wasn't pretty. It wasn't the prettiest, but if your only goals are going to be when the opposition is 5-on-3, there's not really much to complain too much about for tonight's game. So I know I've gone a little bit of ranting about the stalls and then Aaron Ekblad on today's show, but I don't want to complain too much for this one. It's a good win. It's a statement win. It's a possibly momentum season changing type of win. I know it's only game number 20 and there's 62 games left of the season, but let's enjoy this one. Let's hopefully the Florida Panthers are able to build more on this, and there's one more game before they go out west on their second West Coast trip of the season, and very important to get a home win because you're not guaranteed to even come out with half the points on when you're going out west, when you're waking up at a different time. And we're going to discuss the scores around the league, and we're going to discuss some of the quotes from after the game here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Third and final segment here on this Thursday, November 24th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Once again, I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. And Florida Panthers PR just tweeted this really cool stat from NHL PR is that, quote, producing a season-high 3 points tonight, Aaron Ekblad became the first Florida Panthers defenseman to reach the 100-goal mark in his 563rd game. The only one who required fewer games to reach the milestone among active defensemen, Erik Karlsson. And of course, Erik Karlsson is having such a wonderful start for the San Jose Sharks this season. So I want to say public congratulations to Aaron Ekblad on his milestone for getting his 100th goal has just been a treat to watch. And here's what Aaron Ekblad has to say about hitting 100 goals. Quote, really happy that it comes in a win so that you can smile about it. I don't think I've ever scored an empty net goal, so it's funny to happen now. Hey, you get your goals where you can take them. So scores around the NHL. I'm not going to read all of them, but weird how TNT decides to show Flyers, Capitals. I mean, I know those are two. I know I wouldn't call Washington a big market, but of course Alex Ovechkin playing there is going to draw a lot of eyeballs, and the Philadelphia Flyers are just not a good hockey team. Honestly, I wish TNT would have placed Panthers Bruins as the marquee game as that one. But of course, you guys know that the 5-2 win for the Florida Panthers. As far as other games, the Arizona Coyotes go into Carolina and defeat the Hurricanes 4-0, and Kochetkov just got a extension today for the Carolina Hurricanes, and then comes up with a takes the L 4-0. Penguins defeat the Flames. The Penguins are streaking as of late. Something that Adam Danker and I spoke on Locked On NHL about. What's gotta happen for the Pittsburgh Penguins in order for them to play better, and it's been Tristan Jarry lately for the Penguins. And then you see Columbus losing to the Montreal Canadiens by a final score of 3-1. And sometimes, again, hockey doesn't make sense sometimes, where the Florida Panthers lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then Columbus comes out flat against the Montreal Canadiens. We spoke earlier about the Buffalo Sabres defeating the St. Louis Blues by a final score of 6-2. This one was this next one that I'm about to talk about. The Toronto Maple Leafs go into New Jersey and defeat the Devils by a final score of 2-1. And the New Jersey Devils on Wednesday night had 3 goals disallowed. And it's been a great season for New Jersey. They just had a 13-game winning streak snapped, and they had 3 disallowed goals. The fans were starting to throw trash on the ice in frustration. And honestly, with a 13-game winning streak, I don't know if I would go that far. Ville Husso gets a shutout against the Nashville Predators, and what a find, what a trade, by the way, for the Detroit Red Wings with the St. Louis Blues. I mean, yeah, we got a lot of talk about the Blues before they come to town on Saturday, but you know that if they had to choose, they would have rather had Ville Husso over Jordan Binnington. The Islanders shut out the Edmonton Oilers. Wow, by a final score of 3-0. Ilya Sorokin goes 49 of 49, the performance of the day, and I thought Spencer Knight had a great performance. And also the Washington Capitals defeat the Philadelphia Flyers in overtime by a final score of 3-2. So that is at least the games that have gone final. And, the day before Thanksgiving with no games on Thursday, it was a 15-game NHL slate for the Panthers. So the Panthers, they prepare for the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. We spoke a lot about the winning streak for the St. Louis Blues snapped. So very important for the Florida Panthers to just get another win, and they'll be gone for a little bit outside of South Florida as it's going to be a tough road. I mean, on this upcoming trip, Matthew Tkachuk will be making his return to Calgary. Don't know how many reigning Boos there will be for Chucky coming into the Saddle Dome, but it's just been a major treat having Matthew Tkachuk. He's just been such a difference maker for the Florida Panthers, and of course, facing off against Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. That one is going to be a lot of fun as always. Don't forget the last time that the Florida Panthers went up to Western Canada and faced off against the Edmonton Oilers. Sergei Bobrovsky had a shutout where the Florida Panthers defeated the Edmonton Oilers last year by a final score of 6-0, where Sergei Bobrovsky, I believe in that first period, he had 17 saves in that one. So who knows? I think Paul Maurice might start Sergei Bobrovsky there. But as far as Saturday, I think that it's going to be Spencer Knight's net for the Florida Panthers on Saturday. But on tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we are going to discuss more of Spencer Knight with Nick Fairbanks on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. We are going to also get his opinion on the Florida Panthers defeating the Boston Bruins by a final score of 5-2 in what was a statement win. And we're going to, of course, continue to preview the Western Canadian trip for the Panthers. It was a big win for the Cats. Of course, we spoke about a lot of how that third game of the season for Florida, that even with 4 defensemen, they cut it close. So this can give you an idea of when the Panthers, or if, the Panthers face off against the Boston Bruins in the playoffs, that just these 2 regular season games can show maybe how the Panthers could possibly match up against the Boston Bruins, as these games have been fairly close. I mean, only twice for the Boston Bruins only 2 of their 3 losses have been by more than 1 goal. Their other loss was by 1 against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The other one was against Ottawa, and the other one against Florida. Hey, so 3 division losses for Boston. So a lot of 4-point swings for Boston. So a big 4-point swing for the Bruins. I know Detroit won today. I know Toronto won today as well. So there's still opportunity to build. I mean, with 62 games left, the Panthers are still in full control of their destiny. An opportunity to still find themselves inside that wild card and the top 3, but we are completely at that first benchmark of the NHL season, and we are going to break down more of that 20-game benchmark with Nick on Friday. So make sure you tune in to that episode on Friday. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to all the shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and the newest show on the Locked On NHL network, Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today is a 20-minute or less podcast covering the entirety of the sports scene with the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.